You know, you said something about, you know, the reason why you believe that roads, hospitals, and electricity cannot, you know, have to hold on for now because there is no money in the treasury. Are you then saying that until people are prosecuted and money is brought back, we can't do anything?
That's not what I'm saying. Of course, you know there's a budget running, and the National Assembly is finally getting itself together, and ministers will come on board, hopefully as presidents committed to, by September. And then you can have the work of governance take off in full effect.
Because quite a number of people who are making money in the economy say that the economy is a bit slow because there is a reluctance by investors to put in their money. They're not sure what direction the president is going to be looking. And so, you know, it would seem that a lot of things are on hold.
I agree to a good extent. And we are all experiencing that in the private sector because the economy is very slow. And part of it...
You acknowledge that much?
No, without a doubt. And I make bold to say that because that's the experience of many Nigerians, particularly in the private sector. But the fact remains that when you look at what this government appears to be focusing on, a halved crude oil sales receipt, the issue, for example, of how the reserve situation needs to be managed, and the naira value must be such that we need to make sure that it doesn't collapse on us, because we have an economy, as you know, that is a one-dimensional economy. And we have to start to look at the issues of gas now, agriculture, all of those areas that we haven't focused on effectively in the past as a way to start to boost the economy.
I think all that is coming. Because some people say that, you know, the former administration did okay in the economy. I mean, areas of diversification, and there was some momentum already being built. Aren't we losing that?
Well, I hope we're not. And I think that this will start to balance out very shortly. I believe from what we see, and you can see action going on in NPC today, that you're going to see similar things happen in ministries and the processes. By the way, I think that the discipline issue of how we run Nigeria, and how we run the issues that concern our people, needed to be addressed so that as we trigger action on governance, there is a method to the madness. What we lacked in the past was that there was no method to the madness. And that discipline, that sense of it, and the fact that somebody is in charge, and somebody that will not be intimidated. In fact, you heard for the first time, and I've been around for a few years, where a president sat up and said, look, I'm going to even look at the military budget and how they expended the taxpayers.
Doesn't that talk again about strong men rather than institutions?
No, I think he's going to try to achieve both. And I'm really an optimist on this matter.
But we haven't heard anybody talk to us about, say, what are the institutional impediments towards fighting corruption? Who's talking about the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, for instance? Lawyers will always tell you, look, when you get to court, if a case, no matter how you think you've got prima facie evidence or cases against people, you get to court, you stay 3 years, that makes no sense of the entire fight, doesn't it?
Yes, but let's also bear in mind that you can't achieve all of this all in the one go. I think that we've gotten started now, my view, in the right direction. And many of these aspects will continue to come to play. I think it was important for our people to understand, whether you're a public servant or in the private sector, you're an enabler, you're somebody who is a facilitator or a conduit of this huge problem we have, corruption. And by the way, we all understand that corruption is everywhere, all over the world. I think it's the level of it and the impunity of it and the runaway level of it that has made it such a huge cancer for Nigeria. So I think what this is about first is you look at it and you say, I'm going to deliver the message that business as usual is finished. The party is over. Now we need to make a conscious effort to play by the rules. And somebody will stand up and say, I will do it, and I will be exemplary, and I'm going to demand that you do. And if you don't, I will prosecute, but I'll follow due process. I think that's important. But I don't think that will come at the cost of governance, because I believe that, after all, he's only been in there, what, 2 months and some change? It's not really that long yet. I don't think we should start to lose patience. I know that Nigerians had huge expectations coming in. And that's understandable. We're hurting for power. We're hurting for jobs. We need opportunities for economic empowerment of our people. The youth are under pressure. The system is under a lot of pressure. We are all under a lot of pressure. And by the way, when you watch the body language of the international community, being in Washington a few weeks ago, you start to get a feel where people who know you or people who get to meet you are just wondering, they're looking at you and say, man, if you know what you're talking about, why don't you go on back to your country? That's where you're needed. This is the only one home we have. So I think we need to first look at the issue for what it is and say, let's support this president. Let's get out there and continue to focus on an exemplary leadership that will now start to translate to real governance in a way that discipline, at least a good level of it, can be restored to the system. I think that's important.
And you're saying that, look, even if it means us just hanging out for a couple of more months, no matter how enthusiastic people are waiting to see things happen, just hold on,
I think we Nigerians won't be disappointed. That's my feel. And I'm watching closely like many Nigerians are. But I have good feels for what's going on.
But about the economy, you talk about the private sector, yes, and how they think that the economy is really slow, but that aspect of the economy, can you afford to wait? Lots of people waiting with investment and how to go about it. So if they don't have that clear direction in terms of what is the policy focus of the government, other things are.
I mean, but look at some key areas. Power sector. The whole business of power sector. And then when you now start to look at what clearly is a restructuring of the NNPC, which was a huge, big aspect of the challenge we faced in Nigeria, you can see that the foundation is being laid for a lot of the things that will affect the private sector and the economy. You just couldn't jump into it without first trying to find some remedy, some structure that gives the opportunity, the system, the oxygen it needs to actually take off. Otherwise, if you take old wine in old wine sacks, you're going to get the same.
Let me jump the gun.
You have to do something different.
About the petroleum sector.
Yes.
That big debate, deregulation. Do you think this government should go ahead and deregulate?
Well, first, look at the man they just brought on board to run the NNPC. A man clearly who has a strong track record out of ExxonMobil. I think he's probably resigned now, but the best I knew, Executive Vice President of ExxonMobil Africa and Chief Counsel. So he's a process man. And he understands what not just locally is needed, but also what the international community needs. Whether it's the whole business of Foreign Corrupt Practices Act or prohibited payments, he understands those processes. That's part of the confidence.
So you think
that international investors need, that some people are now coming in place who understand what it is required to bring confidence to the system.
So you think this administration should go ahead and deregulate the sector?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, look at the whole business of subsidy. I'm talking about deregulation. Well, I haven't heard anything different in the last few weeks about payment of subsidies because it's not happening. But we get fuel now, don't we? And a good chunk of it may well be that because price of crude is halved, and people are looking and watching this president saying, you know, you're not going to fool around much with this man. So let's make the adjustment. I think Nigerians need this adjustment. I think it will be an exciting time for us.
But the reality about that is, if that happens, things such as equalization fund may have to go because it was meant to bridge that gap, and people will pay different prices in different areas. Are we going to be ready for
But that's been happening. If you go to the east,
yeah, the south, but the period hasn't gone.
Yeah,
it's still there.
I understand
that is off.
But how do you actually get part of this economy issue going? Is it not about foreign investment? And Mope made the point about everybody hanging and saying, where are we going with this? Where do we put our money? Is this going to be a stable environment? Part of that answer is you need to put as much as possible the right people who generate the right policies that create the confidence. So local and foreign investors will come in. And by the way, I think one of the more important things that also ought to be happening is that states and state governors must take, quite frankly, get the body language
I was
right.
just about to ask you that.
Yes.
I mean, if we justify the president,
Yes.
what about the state governors? What are they waiting for?
I mean, it's a real challenge. And by the way,
Even in states
Yes.
where the same political party handed over to the same political party, you have to say, what, you guys didn't get briefing as well?
well, I think that's an important point. But you know what, though? The importance now, in my view, is that everybody knows somebody is looking after the store. Somebody is in charge. And you can't, so...
We can say the same for the state.
I would imagine that the governors and how they run the business of the states are taking a second look and going, look, because, for example, we need to have due process structures set up in states. We need to do something about how local government accounts are run. We need to do something about how this whole business of corruption and due process can also impact the states positively, because our people need it. We're hurting in a lot of ways. Our people are hurting. But we needed to start that with a good exemplary leadership, and I think that's what we're going to get here now.
Thank you very much.